the weaknesses that were in the way of IBC, but they didn't point them out before they went to the election, including the Quad Alliance. They expected some problems, didn't they?
No, I think, you know, when you're a contestant, both Jubilee and the Quad Alliance are contestants. And, you know, they have other business to do, which is to win the election, you know, mop up their supporters and do whatever they're doing. And also, you don't want to undermine the confidence in the referee. You want to praise the referee, which they did correctly, saying they have confidence in the referee. The referee says he's ready, the referee is going to do a good job, and then the referee fails 100%.
Well, I think the comforting thing is that the country is intact, it's peaceful, and the court will give us a final decision.
We're very fortunate in that regard.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, I want to thank you very much, Joe, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Joseph Wambier is CEO of the investment firm Wambier Capital. And now down south, South African icon Nelson Mandela has returned to his Johannesburg home following a successful medical examination at a Pretoria hospital. The South African president's office says that doctors have completed all scheduled tests, that Mr. Mandela is well, and as before, his health remains under the management of a medical team. Presidential spokesman Mark Maharaj says there is no reason for any alarm. As doctors conduct tests on the 94-year-old Nobel Peace Laureate and former president, Mr. Mandela was hospitalized in December for a lung infection. Now, South Africa is often called the rape capital of the world, but many South Africans are now mobilizing to end this horrifying trend. VOA's Anita Powell reports from Johannesburg.
In recent months, the outrage has grown. These protesters are marching over the brutal killing of teenager Anine Boyson. Anine was one of an estimated 64,000 girls and women who are raped every year in South Africa. Her experience was horrifying. She was raped and tortured in her hometown of Bredasdorp in the Western Cape this year. Her attackers literally tore her small body apart. She died shortly after in a local hospital. Troy Martins, a spokeswoman for the Women's League of the ruling African National Congress Party, says the brutality of the attack has galvanized the nation.
I think we find ourselves in a very fortunate situation at the moment in rape advocacy and sexual violence advocacy, because there is so much public attention on it at the moment, and there is a public sentiment that something needs to be done and enough is enough and the time for action is now.
President Jacob Zuma condemned the attack and called for action in his February State of the Nation address. Earlier this month, Mr. Zuma launched a national campaign that calls for school children to give a daily pledge not to commit rape or sexual violence. On the streets of Johannesburg, a shocking number of passers-by said they had seen the effects of rape firsthand.
I know quite a few people who have actually considered doing rape in my community.
This young woman said she had been sexually assaulted, though not raped, by a family friend.
I felt dirty and I just wanted to die, and it made it worse when they didn't believe me. So I think a person who's raped feels a million times worse than I did, and it's not a good feeling, trust me. I know. It hurts and it haunts you every day, every time.
The Swaranang Legal Advocacy Center works with women who have been victims of abuse. Acting Director Nikki Venning says the anti-rape pledge is a good start, but not enough.
It's fine to recite something, but what does it mean? What is the impact of rape? What does it mean for women? And I think essentially living in a patriarchal society, rape is a systemic issue. And until those things change and until we change what's happening in education, I'm not sure the extent to which this issue of rape is going to be addressed.
Vennings and other advocates say there are many other steps that need to be taken, including a strengthening of police and court systems. Anita Powell, VOA News, Johannesburg.
Well, we want to know what you think about In Focus and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is VOA In Focus. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Well, coming up, will a new pope bring big changes to the church, including women priests? We have reaction from Rome. Stay with us.
Whether you live in Somalia, Senegal, Nigeria, or Zimbabwe, from every corner of sub-Saharan Africa Turn to us for information and experts to help you improve health and life. For you and your family. For your health. Africa Health Network. Only on VOA.
Welcome back. You're watching In Focus. The global trade in ivory and rhino horn tops the agenda at the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, or CITES, conference in Bangkok. Officials are debating imposing bans on all wildlife trade in 19 countries unless they crack down on the poaching, smuggling and the sale of illegal ivory. VOA's Henry Ridgewell reports.
Rangers inspect a dead rhinoceros in Mpumalanga, South Africa last year. It has been killed for one reason: its horn hacked off as the animal lay dying. Poaching for rhino horn and ivory has soared in recent years. It's at the top of the agenda for the 178-nation CITES conference in Thailand. Among the participants is Will Travers of the conservation group Born Free, who spoke to VOA via Skype.
In 2007, there were 13 rhino poached in South Africa. Last year, there were 668, and this year, 130 already.
Elephant poaching is also on the increase. Campaigners say a ban on international ivory trading, signed in 1989, has been weakened and undermined. Kenya is one of the countries pushing for a crackdown on the illegal ivory trade in Asia. In the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro, Steve Njumbi manages conservation programs with the International Fund for Animal Welfare.
There is a misconception amongst most of those who demand or want to use the ivory that ivory falls off elephants just like hair does. Message to them, people in China, people in Thailand: an elephant must die violently. Very, very violently.
Charlotte Davies of the Environmental Investigation Agency based in London says 35,000 elephants a year are being killed for their tusks, mostly by organised criminals.
There's an international ban on the trade in ivory, but there were two one-off legal sales, one in 1999 and one in 2008. And in China, for example, there is a domestic legal ivory market. But this isn't very well policed, it's not well enforced, there are loopholes, and it means that illegally acquired ivory, that's ivory from poached elephants, can be laundered into that system.
Critics say those one-off sales simply fuel demand in Asia. The Environmental Investigation Agency says its research suggests 90% of the ivory traded in China is illegal. Again, Charlotte Davies.
And what EIA is saying at CITES is close down all markets and stop confusing people who think they can buy ivory legally when in fact it's just posing a threat to the elephants on the ground.
Britain's Prince William has joined the calls for immediate action against poaching, sending a video message to delegates at the Thailand conference.
We must do more to combat this serious crime if we are to reverse the current alarming trends. If not, we could soon see some populations of these creatures, or even an entire species, disappear from the wild.
Campaigners warn that extinction is a real possibility unless a global agreement banning the trade is signed and enforced. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Well, Roman Catholic cardinals will meet on Tuesday to start the conclave needed to elect a new pope. The Vatican appears to be aiming to have the new pontiff in place by Easter on March 31st. As pilgrims watch the white smoke that heralds a choice, some Catholics are pushing for more progressive action, such as allowing women into the priesthood. VOA's Jerome Sokolovsky reports from St. Peter's Square.
Time can appear to move slowly at the Vatican, where religious orthodoxy rests on solid pillars. But Giuseppe Visotto thinks the time has come for a little flexibility.
The
Church has to adapt to modern society. The world is changing rapidly, and Church has to follow it in each and every respect.
La Chiesa deve seguirla in tutti quanti I suoi aspetti.
Half a world away,
singing Alleluia.
One Catholic congregation meeting in a Protestant church in Baltimore, Maryland, has already cast aside the prohibition on female clergy.
Jesus, may we live the new life you offer us.
They're part of a movement that started